India, a civilization stretching back over 5,000 years. Home to 1.4 billion people, making it the most populous nation on Earth. It's the birthplace of yoga, meditation, Buddhism, and countless philosophical traditions that have shaped human thought for millennia. Today, India stands as the world's fifth largest economy. It's a nuclear power, a global technology hub where engineers and innovators compete on the world stage, and home to one of the fastest-growing middle classes in human history. But behind this narrative of progress and spiritual wisdom lies another India, one that doesn't appear in tourism campaigns, one that millions experience daily, but the world rarely sees. This isn't sensationalism. These are documented realities from international organizations, academic research, and investigative journalism. What you're about to see is the complete picture, not to condemn India, but to understand it fully. Because no nation can be truly understood through selective storytelling. This is the dark side of India. To understand modern India, we must first confront a fundamental contradiction. It is simultaneously one of the world's fastest-growing economies, and home to the largest concentration of extreme poverty on the planet. The numbers tell a stark story. According to World Bank data and India's own National Statistical Office, approximately 230 million Indians live below the poverty line. That's more than the entire population of Brazil. But poverty statistics only tell part of the story. Let's talk about what this means in practical terms. Over 160 million Indians lack access to clean drinking water. Approximately 500 million people still practice open defecation due to a lack of proper sanitation. And nearly 65 million families live in housing classified as inadequate or unsafe. Mumbai, India's financial capital, perfectly illustrates this divide. The city is home to Antilia, a 27-story private residence valued at over $2 billion, owned by billionaire Mukesh Ambani. Less than 3 kilometers away lies Dharavi, one of Asia's largest slums, where nearly 1 million people live in about 2.5 square kilometers. That's a population density exceeding 170,000 people per square kilometer. Families live in structures measuring just 10 by 10 feet, with multiple generations sharing single rooms and children playing in alleys filled with industrial waste. The gap is widening. According to Oxfam India's 2024 report, the top 1% of Indians own more than 40% of the nation's wealth, while the bottom 50% owns barely 3%. India has created 166 billionaires, the third highest number globally. But it also has more people living in extreme poverty than any other single country. While urban inequality is visible, rural poverty affects over 800 million Indians, nearly 60% of the population. In states like Bihar, Jharkhand, and Uttar Pradesh, rural poverty rates exceed 30%. Farmers there struggle with unpredictable monsoons and climate change, a lack of irrigation infrastructure, exploitive middlemen, and crushing debt cycles. Between 2013 and 2023, over 100,000 farmers died by suicide, driven by debt, crop failure, and economic desperation. That's an average of 10,000 deaths per year, or 28 farmers every single day. Let's hear from those on the ground. Rajesh Kumar, 34, works as a construction laborer in Delhi. He migrated from rural Bihar seeking better opportunities. He works 12-hour days, 7 days a week, earning about 400 rupees per day, roughly $5. He lives in a rented room with 7 other workers, with no running water and shared toilets. His dream? To save enough to bring his family to the city. Across town, Priya Malhotra, 28, works as a software engineer for a multinational corporation. Her annual salary is 2.5 million rupees, or about $30,000. She lives in a modern apartment, shops at international brands, and vacations abroad. Both Rajesh and Priya live in Delhi, but they inhabit entirely different worlds. This stark inequality isn't just an economic issue. It creates a cascade of other crises. For hundreds of millions, the right to basic health and a quality education remains an elusive dream. Let's start with healthcare. While India has world-class private hospitals that cater to medical tourists, its public healthcare system is overwhelmed and underfunded. According to the World Health Organization, India has just 0.9 doctors per 1,000 people, far below the recommended minimum of 1. In rural areas, this number drops even lower. This shortage has devastating consequences. Every year, millions die from preventable diseases. For example, India has the highest number of tuberculosis cases in the world, with over 400,000 deaths annually. Malnutrition is another silent epidemic. UNICEF reports that nearly 35% of Indian children under 5 are stunted due to chronic undernutrition. That's almost 40 million children whose physical and cognitive development will be permanently affected. Now, let's look at education. The Indian Constitution guarantees free and compulsory education for all children between 6 and 14. But the reality on the ground is very different. Government schools, especially in rural areas, are plagued by a lack of resources, teacher absenteeism, and poor infrastructure. The annual Status of Education report found that over 50% of 5th grade students in rural India cannot read a second-grade level text. This educational divide traps millions in a cycle of poverty, denying them the skills needed to participate in India's growing economy. For those who can afford it, private education offers a way out. But this creates a two-tiered system where the quality of a child's future is determined by their family's wealth. At the heart of many of India's challenges lies a deeply entrenched system of social hierarchy. The caste system, although officially abolished by the Indian Constitution in 1950, its influence continues to shape the lives of millions. Historically, the system divided society into rigid hierarchical groups. At the bottom are the Dalits, formerly known as untouchables, who make up over 100 million people. For centuries, Dalits have faced systemic discrimination, segregation, and violence. Despite affirmative action policies, known as reservations, providing quotas in government jobs and education, their social and economic mobility remains severely limited. According to official crime statistics, a crime is committed against a Dalit person every 15 minutes. These are not isolated incidents, but part of a pattern of prejudice that pervades society. Dalit communities are often denied access to public resources like wells, temples, and schools. They are frequently relegated to the most menial and hazardous jobs, such as manual scavenging, the practice of cleaning raw sewage by hand, which continues despite being outlawed. The story of women in India is one of profound paradox. On one hand, India has had a female prime minister, a female president, and many women lead some of the country's largest corporations. On the other hand, it remains one of the most dangerous places in the world to be a woman. According to the National Crime Records Bureau, over 445,000 crimes against women were reported in 2022. That's nearly 51 crimes every single hour. And these are just the reported cases. The actual number is believed to be much higher. Gender-based violence takes many forms, from domestic abuse to so-called honor killings. The cultural preference for male children has also led to a skewed sex ratio. Decades of sex-selective abortions have resulted in millions of missing girls. In 2021, India's sex ratio at birth was 907 females for every 1,000 males, a demographic imbalance with long-term social consequences. Women also face immense barriers in the workforce. India has one of the lowest female labor force participation rates in the world, at just 24%. Social norms, safety concerns, and the burden of unpaid care work keep many women out of the formal economy, limiting their independence and the nation's economic potential. No discussion of India's challenges is complete without addressing the environmental crisis. As the country industrializes and its population grows, the strain on its natural resources is reaching a breaking point. India is home to 39 of the world's 50 most polluted cities. The air in cities like Delhi and Kolkata is often so toxic that breathing it is equivalent to smoking multiple cigarettes a day. This air pollution is estimated to cause over 1.6 million premature deaths each year. Water is another critical issue. Major rivers like the Ganges and Yamuna, sacred to millions, are now among the most polluted in the world, choked with industrial effluent, raw sewage, and plastic waste. Water scarcity is also a growing threat. According to Niti Aayog, a government think tank, 21 major Indian cities are projected to run out of groundwater in the near future, affecting over 100 million people. The competing demands of agriculture, industry, and a growing population are pushing India's water resources to the brink. Finally, we must examine the state of India's democracy. As the world's largest democracy, India has long been a beacon of pluralism and free expression. However, in recent years, international watchdogs have raised serious concerns about the erosion of democratic freedoms. Organizations like Freedom House and the Vidam Institute have downgraded India's status from free to partly free or electoral autocracy. They cite a growing intolerance for dissent, a crackdown on independent media, and the use of government agencies to target political opponents and activists. Journalists who criticize the government face harassment, lawsuits, and even imprisonment. In the 2024 World Press Freedom Index, India ranked 159th out of 180 countries, a significant drop over the last decade. Laws like the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, or UAPA, have been used to detain activists, students, and journalists for extended periods without trial. This chilling effect on free speech and civil liberties threatens the very foundation of India's vibrant democracy. So, what does this all mean? The purpose of this deep dive is not to paint a picture of despair. It's to present an honest, unfiltered look at the complex realities facing a nation of 1.4 billion people. India's story is not just one of shining tech parks and spiritual retreats. It's also a story of struggle, of injustice, and of immense challenges. The two Indias, one of wealth and opportunity, the other of poverty and despair, are not separate. They are deeply intertwined. The future of the nation depends on bridging this divide. The solutions are not simple. They require systemic change, political will, and a societal commitment to upholding the constitutional values of equality, justice, and liberty for every single citizen. Understanding this darker side is essential to appreciating the full picture. It's a reminder that behind the headlines of economic growth, there are human lives, struggles, and aspiration. The true measure of India's success will not be the number of its billionaires, but its ability to ensure dignity, safety, and opportunity for all its people. Thank you for watching. If this video gave you a new perspective, please like, share, and subscribe for more in-depth content.